From an economy that just keeps diving to a car that flies off the ground, you got to see this. Today's edition of CNN Student News is taking off. I'm Carl Azus. First up, Wall Street, where the stock market is struggling through a 6-day slump. Yesterday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which indicates how the overall market is doing, dropped 250 points. Experts blamed it on bad news from the banking industry and a report that retail sales dipped in December. One executive said, quote, "We knew it was bad, but not this bad." And as the Dow dips, so does the mercury, with parts of the country's Midwestern region shivering through sub-zero temperatures yesterday. But the worst may be yet to come. Experts say the next couple days will bring the coldest air of the season. They predict the frigid conditions will continue through the weekend and stick around for Tuesday's presidential inauguration.
Time for the shout-out. Which U.S. president's inauguration drew the largest crowd to date? If you think you know it, shout it out. Was it George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan, or Lyndon Johnson? You've got 3 seconds. Go! In 1965, President Lyndon Johnson's inauguration drew a record 1.2 million people. That's your answer, and that's your shout-out.
Well, next week's inauguration could set a new record. Officials are estimating that up to 2 million people might turn out for that event. In fact, President Bush has declared a disaster in D.C. even before anything happens. Now, that move frees up federal support to help out, including emergency personnel and equipment. Gene Meserve examines some other ways the city is preparing for the crowd.
Porta potties side by side, row upon row on the National Mall in preparation for a very big inaugural crowd. A poorly managed crowd can be destructive, even deadly. Just a few weeks ago, a Walmart security guard was trampled by shoppers on the hunt for a bargain. Inaugural officials have consulted a crowd management expert who has studied events like the Hajj, the annual pilgrimage to Mecca.
People have learned from the mistakes that had been made in terms of massing very large numbers of people there, in terms of having hard starts where you simply open the floodgates and then you get these stampedes through.
Washington is used to big gatherings like 4th of July celebrations, and the police know how to handle a crowd. But the challenges on Inauguration Day could be unprecedented.
Information is my best friend.
Text messages, jumbotrons, and loudspeakers will all be used to communicate with the crowd in an emergency. If long waits lead to frustration and anger, officials have plans to diffuse it.
We actually have customer service folks that will be walking up and down lines of people, giving them maps and telling them where to go, and, kind of being ambassadors to make people feel, a little bit more comfortable with what they want to do.
Officials are already publicizing the basics. Screening checkpoints will open at 7 to let the first 300,000 or so people onto the parade route. Backpacks, coolers, strollers, large umbrellas will all be banned. Restrictions will be looser on the mall, where the overflow will be sent. Spectators who choose can stake out a mall spot early, though camping is prohibited. Officials deny they are trying to discourage people from attending.
It's quite to the contrary. Our efforts are to make sure that people are safe. We'd like for as many people to come as want to come.
Some experts say the number of portable toilets, estimated at 5,000, is grossly inadequate for the crowd. Others are worried about food and drink. Planners believe they're about as ready as can be, but warn this will not be your average day out. People should plan carefully and dress for the weather. Gene Meserve, CNN, Washington.
If you won't be near a TV on Tuesday, you can still see the inauguration at CNN.com Live. Follow all the day's events, from the swearing in to the inaugural address, the parade to the parties. And don't forget to check out our one-sheet and learning activity on presidential inaugurations. You'll find those free resources at CNNStudentNews.com.
A word to the wise: xenophobia, an unreasonable fear or hatred of anyone or anything that's foreign or strange.
Okay, one example of xenophobia that a lot of us have encountered is racism. Is it still a problem in our country? And if so, to what degree? That's what we are talking about on today's blog, and what a group of Atlanta area high school students discussed with Tony Harris recently when the CNN anchor headed back to class. Check out what these students had to say.
Are we, with this election, the nation's first black president, are we beyond race?
No.
No.
Never.
There are always going to be those barriers. Socioeconomic status, different things, they're always going to matter. Just to say that, well, now we've elected the African American, now that we've had all the support, that the glass ceiling has just all of a sudden disappeared, I think that's unrealistic.
I believe that race will always be a problem. And that as time changed, our format for being harsh towards different racial groups has changed.
I think it's always going to be in the back of everybody's mind because, I mean, for some people it's second nature. It's what they were taught when they were little, like for grandparents and great-grandparents. They can't help it.
I'm not gonna teach my kids that, about racism and all that. I'm going to teach them everybody's all good. So, I mean, as you go through the ages, eventually as you get through, as you get down into my grandkids and great-grandkids and stuff, eventually race is going to become less and less of an issue until it's almost non-existent.
That's not true, though. That's not true.
We're going to work
As an elementary and middle school student, I went to all-black schools. And I didn't really beat white people until the summer before I got to Grady. And at those schools where there were all black people, I had teachers who were people who fought in the civil rights movement and had parents who fought in the civil rights movement, and they told us these stories about these things. And that created and ingrained some type of xenophobic or some view, because we didn't know these people, then, i.e. Caroline is a person that I should be afraid of. And that didn't go away because Barack Obama was elected president. I think the fear is now we're a lot less honest about it. I think in the 60s people were honest about their racism, and right now it's more under the rug, and that's the danger.
Or there could be the actual possibility that maybe we are changing. Which is what
a 4-year-old who is growing up now thinks it's completely normal that an African-American man and a woman were viable candidates for the presidency, and one of them is now the president. And that will never be weird or impossible because it's what they grew up with.
How many of you believe that race relations in this country will improve during the Obama
I think it depends on Barack Obama's actions as president. They'll associate that with whether race relations improve or not.
I wish people weren't so afraid to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And we don't know.
One of my hopes is that a Barack Obama's election will stop people seeing black culture and white culture as opposite cultures, so much as just a different type of culture.
And another thing is Barack Obama, during the whole election, he didn't present himself as the black candidate or as the African American. He just went on as, I'm another candidate, these are my ideas, etc. So I think he himself took that step forward.
Though racism does exist in our country and there are tensions between the different races, I think that it's not as big as everybody's making it. Yeah, we just elected an African American to the presidency, but at the same time, we have a country that's in economic turmoil. That's what we should be talking about, and that's what we should be worried about, not whether Caroline and I will hate each other tomorrow.
Because the answer is no.
Probably not.
DJ.
I don't think that race is a big problem as it was in the 1960s. I think that this country has come a long way, and inevitably, no matter what happens, it will go even further.
Anyone else? Last word. Okay, good. Awesome.
And before we leave you today, we're bringing you a buggy that's built to travel across all terrains, including the sky. A team of engineers spent 18 months researching and designing this thing and then launched it on a 3,700-mile journey from London to Timbuktu. Propeller in the back, parachute on top, crazy in the cockpit. Well, you can judge that for yourself. The inventor says he's hoping the aerial adventure will touch down in Timbuktu in February. Of course, if he bought a ticket on Air France, it'd only take about 6 hours. Either way, it's where the rubber leaves the road on CNN Student News. I'm Carl Azuz.